Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. I call Thursdays Thankful Thursdays. It's a time where I just reflect and think about everything that's happening in my life that I'm grateful for. Because, jealousy and dissatisfaction comes when you start counting other people's blessings more than you count your own. So I just encourage you sometimes to just sit and meditate and reflect and think about all the things in your life that are going right. But thank you for joining. Thank you for all of those who are signing on. I wanted to continue my conversation from Sunday. I was discussing casting out fear. And, you think you have something out, you think you really, just got it out there, but it's still been tugging at me and tugging at me. And there's some more things that I want to discuss about that. So I appreciate those of you who are able to join on Sunday, or you're able to watch the video later. There were some comments and even people who took me to the side later personally and talked about the subject with me. And we just really talked about how fear holds us back from, especially in business and in our personal lives, just being so fearful that it makes us unable to move forward. So we get stuck. We get stuck in the same routine. We get stuck in things that make us unhappy because we're fearful. Really, that's at the root of a lot of the things that we do is just fear, simply. And so, I talked about acknowledging it first. Acknowledging the fact that you are fearful. But as I was thinking, I'm still dealing with this because I tell people all the time, look, if I'm speaking on something, please understand that it's something that I've either dealt with or I'm dealing with. I don't talk about anything that doesn't have anything to do with me. So please know that this is something that I have to address and continue to conquer. It's a daily battle for me just as well. And so, as I was thinking about it, I was talking with a friend the other day, and we were just really exploring the topic a little bit more. And just really laying on my heart how much we really are driven by fear. And sometimes even the things that we think are good in our lives are really the result of fearful actions. And there's a book out there that's called Good to Great. And really the premise is about being so satisfied with what's good that you've actually blocked yourself from going to what could be great. Okay, and sometimes we're so satisfied, we think we are, with what's going well, that we don't realize or we don't put forth the effort to make things any better. And so we are essentially ignoring the potential of what something could be. So let me put it into perspective. So you might not want to hear this, especially my women who are joining in. You might not want to hear this, but I'm going to tell you the independent woman trend, and that was me. The independent woman trend is a result of fear. How about that? The independent woman is a fearful woman. I'm going to tell you why. So first of all, independent women a lot of time are thrown into situations where they have to step up and take care of business, and it's by no fault of their own. We're not going to go into all the reasons those things happen. But the problem is a lot of women who are thrown into that mode and are successful at being independent end up staying there. That's where the fear comes in. See, it takes trust to be able to let somebody in. An independent woman prides herself on being able to take care of business, handle her own, be able to rely on herself, the she don't need nobody type of situation and attitude. Now, on the outside, it may look like you're doing well. You may have a great job, your kids are taken care of, you have your own house, your own car, everything's in your name, all of those kinds of things. But in all actuality, a lot of our independent women are scared. They're fearful. For one, they're scared of repeating the situations that they've already been in. So it's easier to push people out instead of letting them in because you don't want to be hurt again. Then the independent woman is fearful of trusting somebody else, especially when she believes that she can do it better herself. You know that phrase, I can do bad all by myself. You don't want to invite anybody in and trust them to handle your business, to pay your bills or to support you and offer you security. You're afraid. You're afraid of opening up. And so now you have this perpetual independent woman. I can be independent. I'm going to continue to be independent because I don't want to let anybody else in. So that was a different perspective for me. Sometimes there is confidence and strength and courage in being vulnerable, in being able to open up to people and let them in your life. And that kind of leads me to the next situation, is that a reason why so many relationships fail, and I'm not talking about just marriage, I'm talking about all relationships. All relationships, any interactions that you have with other people, whether they be parent and child, sister and brother, best friends, marriages, so many relationships fail because we're scared. Think about this. A lot of times we put up walls around our hearts because we have been hurt before. We're scared to open up. So if you can't open up, then you can't be intimate with another person emotionally to be able to perpetuate or to foster a positive relationship. There's a trend going on. People think it's cool that when people aren't acting right in your circle, you cut them off. That's the trend. How quick you can cut somebody off. No notice, I'm going to cut you off. That's operating in fear. That's not what grown folks do. See, grown folks that operate with courage and bravery and are able to confront situations, they have adult conversations. This is the problem. Instead of having an adult conversation, discussing our feelings, opening up, and having conversations about differences, we decide to walk away. But that's fear. That's cowardice. Okay? Instead of dealing with something, we choose to avoid it. So nowadays, you have people whose BFFs, best friends, they've only known them for 3 months, a year. We don't have any long-lasting relationships anymore because we don't go deep in the relationships. We're scared to open up. What if they don't like what I say? What if they don't like the things that I like to do? Or I don't know how to deal with it because we don't agree on this, that, and the other. And we can't have real conversations anymore. A conversation that says, hey, girl, that's not the right way to go. I still love you, but I don't want to see you go down that road. I'm still here for you. I'm still your friend. But we're going to have this grown folk conversation right now. But so many of us operate in fear. We don't have the right conversations with our children because we're scared. We're scared of damaging relationships with our children. Oh, they're gonna rebel against me. They're not gonna like me as a parent. They don't have to like you as a parent, first of all. Okay, that's first and foremost. But we have to have hard conversations with our children and stop acting like things aren't happening. Stop acting like topics don't need to be discussed. Especially in the Black community. I don't know why this is on my mind right now, but it just came to me. In the Black community, things are happening in families that Black families don't want to talk about. And it's happening. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean. And they need to be discussed. They need to be confronted so they can be stopped. These things are affecting people generation to generation to generation. But people want to dance around it. They want to have secrets. They want to whisper about it. They want to deny things are happening because they're scared. They're scared about what other people are going to think. They're scared about having adult conversations. They're afraid of bringing things to the light that need to be brought to the light. But the fact is, we need to protect our children and we need to have conversations with our children. Because if we as adults are operating in fear, then we're perpetuating that cycle with our children. And guess what? They're going to do the same things with our families. You can't have a conversation with your spouse that's really open and honest about your feelings and all of those kinds of things. Then there's going to be so many ways that things can come in between y'all. You find out after years that you don't really know your husband. You don't really know your wife because you're not opening. You're not communicating. There's only so much conversation you can have in Netflix and chill. Every once in a while you need to turn off the TV and talk about some things and be open and be honest. And you say, you know what? This is my favorite thing to do. This is my opinion about healthcare and politics. This is my opinion about education. This is my opinion about how to raise kids. And be okay with the conflict. Can you be okay with the conflict? But we shy away from those conversations, so we end up with shallow relationships. So we shouldn't be surprised when our relationships don't last and we're cutting people off just like that. Yeah, that's fear. That's fear. So the more that I thought about it, the more that I'm realizing that fear is dominating so much of our lives. So okay, Amber, that's the problem. That's the problem. Then what do we do about it? Well, the first step is just acknowledging that it's there. You can't attack a problem that you don't know when it's there. The first thing you do when you go to the doctor, you give them your list of symptoms, what's wrong, and then they give you a diagnosis, because with the diagnosis, you know that there can be some treatment. So the first thing to do is say, you know what? This is how I'm operating in this situation. And I think it is because I'm scared. That's a conversation I don't have. I do avoid that. Yeah, that's fear. Okay, so acknowledge that it's there. And then the second thing is confront it. Confront it head on. You have to sit and meditate and reflect and say, what about this situation scares me? What is the problem? Where is the fear coming from? Why am I so fearful? And then be able to just start easing your way into it. You know, just that's the way the psychologists do it when they want you to confront your fears and your phobias and things like that. You know, if you're scared of dogs, they may start off showing you pictures of dogs, then you see videos of dogs, and then you work your way up to being in the room with the dog and being able to pet the dog, right? So let's say, for instance, you are fearful of having meaningful conversations with your spouse. You end up in a lot of arguments because you're actually not expressing yourself well when you're calm and there's nothing going on. So things build up. You think they're supposed to read your mind, but they never read your mind because men don't read minds. And then, you know, an argument ensues. And you're wondering what happened. Well, it's because you didn't speak your mind. You had some preconceived notion, some idea of what was supposed to happen. You never spoke on it because you were scared. Why were you so scared to speak up about what you wanted? As a woman in a relationship, married or not, why are you so scared to speak up to this man about what you want in the relationship? That's a question I can't answer for you. That's a self-reflection. To say, is it about me? Am I with the wrong man? What can I do? And then from there, you practice the baby steps. You know, if you feel yourself hesitating when it's time to say something that you feel, pause, recognize that moment, and then pause and say, why am I scared at this moment? Why does this not roll off my tongue in this conversation the way other things do? And figure out why in that moment you're scared, and then practice. You know, for me, it's apologizing. I can admit that. For whatever reason, there's like this gut fear in apologizing and admitting that I'm wrong. And so I start with baby steps, you know, and it just may choke me up in my throat. You know, I don't want to say it. I feel like I have a frog in my throat. And then next thing you know, I just kind of let this apology emerge. And it takes practice. And then next thing you know, it's easier and easier and easier for me to admit my mistakes. I know the root causes of why it's hard for me to apologize, but it took time. It took time for me to figure that out. It took time for me to identify the moments where I figured that fear was operating in my life and was preventing me from doing that. It took me realizing how it was impacting my relationships that I couldn't admit when I was wrong, big or small, and apologize for it. And so that's something that I'm working on. But what is it for you? What is it for you? What's holding you back in your relationships that keeps you from opening up, from saying, I'm going to be vulnerable in this relationship. I'm going to be emotionally open. Because once again, there's bravery and there's courage in being vulnerable and being open. Those depths of relationships is what allows relationships to make it through storms and trials and tribulations. To say, you know what, we're this close because I know how you think and you know how I think. And we both know that regardless of what happens, we're going to be able to communicate with one another. And we're going to know that we have each other's backs. So whatever that is for you, I just challenge you today to just examine yourself, how you go about the day and say, you know what are some things that I didn't do today or that I hesitated to do today because I was afraid? What was it? Was it having a conversation with someone? Was it going to a certain place? Was it wearing a certain thing? Was it not wearing a certain thing? Some of us women, come on now, you're afraid to go out without makeup. Be honest. Be honest. Why are you so afraid? What's going on? What's holding you back? So I just challenge you, confront fear head on, recognize its role in your life right now and just cast it out. Say, I'm not going to be constrained by fear anymore because my life it's good, but it can be so much greater if I cast out this fear right now. Because the limits that you have placed on yourself, they're just imagined. Fear is the anticipation of what's going to happen, not the reality of what will happen. And so when you can get outside of yourself, when you can break those little chains in your mind that holds you down, that fear that says, no, this is not going to go well for me. I'm going to get negative responses. I'm not going to be successful. Cut all of that. Cut all of that. And say, you know what, I'm going to tackle this head on, even if I got to practice it little by little, day by day, month by month. And next year at this moment, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to write it down. June 29th, 2018, I'm going to be a different person because I've cast out fear. And you'll be surprised how far you can go. Check your relationships. See how they flourish when you start operating with courage and bravery instead of fear. Check your jobs, check your businesses, check your relationships with your children when you start operating in bravery and courage instead of fear. So thank you all, guys. I know we're all a work in progress, and I just appreciate y'all going on this journey with me as we're conquering fear, casting out fear, and becoming better versions of ourselves. Love you all. Good night.